Hey everybody, welcome back to another Chippa in the Third Person video log. Chris Chipman, the Chippa, Chipman Brothers Tangent, Creating Geeks, a parenting podcast of great responsibility, Shooting the Shit with Chippa, and the Talkbuster podcast. I am back in my regular automobile for today because the work getting done on my car has been postponed till tomorrow. So back to the stuff popping up on my screen. Back to the surroundings that you're used to in my 2008 Dodge Avenger, which I inherited from my wife, so she can have the Nissan Rogue. It's hopefully not on its last leg. It will hopefully last a bit more. It's got about 160,000 miles on it, and we've owned it for about 4 years, so that's pretty kick-ass. Owned it flat out. We've had it since 2009, so not a bad life if you ask me, but hopefully it's got some more time in it. This morning I had to get up and go to work early. Didn't succeed as well as I had hoped with that. It's 8:30 in the morning, so that'll get me there at about 9:15. I have an inspector coming in to do a safety certification on something, and I have to hold his hand for a couple of days. He's a good guy. It's just hard to deal with because this kind of stuff is semi-subjective and even more subjective in the eyes of where I work, and so you end up having to do a lot of things that go against standard practices, and getting everybody on board to be okay with them is just a whole lot of arguing, but at the same time, they're not the ones that want to sit there and be there with the guy, and so you have to come back with, well, this is what they claimed we had to do to get the system done, and everyone else says, no, that's not what we do. So it's just this cycle every time of trying to push these standards that are unfortunately being required of us through, but everybody and their mother wants to argue, but also don't want to take on the responsibility of actually being there to argue it out. So it puts me in a really, really, really interesting position of having to play both sides, which is where I end up most of the time at my company. But that's okay. You guys don't want to be bored with that. The reason I'm not getting out the door as early as I want, because I spent 45 minutes with my daughter getting really upset that I was going to work. And I felt really bad. She started don't go, and then started crying. I don't want to cry. I'm crying, Daddy. Don't go. And it was just the sweetest friggin' thing in the world. It really, really was. And I'm having a hard time recovering from it because she's just so sweet. And I'm letting some landscapers cross the street because apparently everybody around me has more money than me and can afford landscaping. Anyway, so what else is going on in the world? What else is going on with you? Because Ava woke up so early yesterday, I rescheduled my recording for Shooting the Shit last night. Thankfully, my guest will be my second, because we had so much to talk about, recording with Andy Rodriguez, which is the podcast that debuted last night and is already over 150 downloads. Debuted at 8 p.m. last night. Thank you guys so much. I thought he was a great guest. I'm really excited to have him back on and talk some more. And I hope you guys enjoyed our conversation. And I hope you guys have been enjoying. I feel like I'm way far into it, but I've only released a couple episodes where we've played Right Quote Wrong Movie. So I hope you guys are really enjoying the hell out of that. And I really enjoyed the patron hangout, like I talked about on Friday and yesterday, that I did last week with the folks over at Geeks with Shields. And by the way, I'm back in my regular car, Ulrich. So you don't have to deal with change today. Turd alien. Anyway, what else is going on? I recorded, I didn't even talk about this yesterday. I recorded on Sunday night with Brendan Agnew from the internet. I'm the bee from nature. No, Brendan Agnew from the internet, who also is a frequent guest or writer for the column that Brendan Foley does, the 2 Cent Cinema, which is the movie book club that I've been contributing to a lot. We did The Seventh Curse last week. I'm almost done rewatching the original Child's Play, which takes on a completely different connotation, like most movies with parents and children, when you have a daughter or a child, especially a child. My daughter has an autism spectrum diagnosis, and so she doesn't necessarily process everything the exact same way or react to things the exact same way as neurotypical is the word. And I say that because my outlook on being on a spectrum or being the way that a person learns or a person acts is that, we're all different. And yeah, putting people into a group of typical, I guess, makes sense medically and makes sense with how you do schooling and everything else. But to me, everybody needs to find a way that they learn, and everybody needs to find a way that they cope and they deal with things. And I think that, we just have to know what, each person needs and adjust and react to it. Just because it isn't the way we would have typically done it doesn't mean that they don't deserve the same amount of attention. So that's my outlook for a brief discussion this morning. But anyway, why does Child's Play? One, that movie's always freaked me out. I don't know why. The first one and the second one particularly just hit so hard. Like, the horror is so real, and the animatronics, even though the films are, not the most expensive in the world, just really, really work quite well. And I don't know, there's just something about the Brad Dourif's performance of Chucky is just so menacing. And it's, in the later movies it became fun, like with the Freddy Krueger thing, and I love those versions of it, but he's just so menacing and evil here, and I love that. Oh, Tesla's coming to Lynn. Sorry, every time I drive by this sign. The Lynn Auditorium gets, obviously they were acts that were big a while back and are still touring, but I've been there. The presentation and everything, it's as good as like the Hampton Beach Casino Ballroom. They get great acts here, and Tesla is coming, which is awesome. Not the car for you younger folk that know the metal rock band. Anyway, back to what I was saying about that. But there's this thing in Child's Play where, Andy's saying the doll's talking to him, and they believe no, it wasn't the doll that is killing people, it was Andy, and he's just using this to cope. And so they take him away to like a facility to like monitor him, and it brings me back. There was some things going on involving my brother, where we talked about on the episode where him and I talked about Catholic school, where because he was artistic and because he didn't learn the exact same way or want to learn the exact same way as the rest of the kids, that is something that needed to be analyzed, or removed or changed, and he refused. And so did my family and my parents. And, so these things in Child's Play, well, this movie might seem silly to some, they hit me real hard, and they make me think of my daughter and how far we've come in how we handle it. Again, obviously, it's a little different when, the first order surface thing is, a doll is killing people and the kid isn't understood. But it's still, little simple things. We have a tendency to just fear that which is different. And so more on that when I write my bit for 2 cents this week, which hopefully I get to because I'm busy, but I plan on it. But just a reminder, that different isn't necessarily bad. And that's all I got. This has been the Chippa. I'll see you guys on the other side. Bye.